Welcome to the Real Estate Real Success podcast, where we talk about key business successes and lessons learned along the way in the hopes of inspiring brokerage owners and managers to find new ways to grow their business. I'm Chiyoko Kakino. In this episode, we're going to talk about leadership. So what effective leadership looks like today and what it might look like in the future. I'm very honored to be joined by this power panel of successful, talented, smart, and absolutely wonderful ladies. We have Joanne Evans. She is from C21 Millennium in Brampton, Ontario. We have Geneva Tetreault from C21 Masters in Edmonton, Alberta. And we have Laurie Brugger from C21 Westman from Brandon, Manitoba. So thank you so much for joining me today. So I want to start off by giving a little bit of a brief backgrounder on each of you and your journey in the real estate industry, paying specific attention to, at what point you exactly got involved in a leadership role. So Geneva, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here and join Joanne and Laurie and yourself, Chiyoko. So I actually was licensed when I was 24, so just about 20 years ago. And 2 years after I was in the industry, I really saw a gap in training support and some of the brokerage models that were in our area. So that's when I decided to open our company. So at the age of 26, I kind of stepped across the line into leadership in a world that was basically male, 65-year-old male dominated industry, which was quite interesting as a 26-year-old. And I think one thing that I can just say generally is as my comfort and confidence grew, my company was able to grow along with me. So it was kind of it's been a neat journey that I'm still on.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Laurie, why don't we go to you?
Thanks for having me also. I started selling in 1996. I was a full-time sales associate, and then I became a partner of Century 21 Westman in 2002. And I had the benefit of sitting around the boardroom table with my fellow partners and did learn quite a bit that way and good mentorship there at the time. And then in 2017, I started to gradually move more into a leadership role. I'm still continuing to sell. And then in 2018, I got my broker's license and then became broker of record for the company and have been very involved in management and leadership since then.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Joanne?
Hi, everyone. So good to be with you all. Well, as we were mentioning in the run-up to this, I'm the mature representative on this ladies' power panel. And I got licensed in 1986 and opened my own brokerage in 1997 with a partner. And of course, at that time, I mean, there were very few females in leadership roles. So I had to fight are you the secretary? Are you the assistant? Or is that your boyfriend? Or no, business partner. So, but again, that sort of stuff, I totally could see, that I was in an era of breakthrough. So I did not let that get in my way at all. It's like, yeah, sure. No, I'm not. I'm actually a partner, but yeah, sure. And again, when you find your voice and you start expressing yourself in front of what was a strong majority of male leadership back then, that's when the breakthroughs come. And it was really, I could see the excitement in the women that I bumped into in the industry. And I was really grateful for the support I got from some very confident men in the industry as well. So, and now you have your next generation here on this panel, that excites me to see this strong leadership. Very exciting.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And thanks for sharing some of the obstacles that you went through during your career. So now I want to talk a little bit about what skills you all feel that an effective leader needs these days. So Laurie, why don't we start with you this time?
Okay, well, there's quite a few skills that we need, but I would have to say the most important ones would be being able to listen. You need to listen to others, right? You need to be able to inspire, coach, motivate, and clearly understand what your team's needs are. And you need to be a futurist. And you most definitely need to know what trends are coming. You need to try to be ahead of those things and study them. And obviously knowledge, you need knowledge, right? And you need to have passion and desire to keep learning and pushing forward. You need to be committed.
And Laurie, how do you talk a little bit about continuous improvement really is how do you make sure that you stay ahead of things and you're always learning and making sure that you clearly understand the trends in the industry?
I think that, well, for one, is going to conference, going
Yeah.
to the Century 21 Canada conference. I always learn a lot there. I also signed up for the different Century 21 University courses, any leadership courses I can grab onto. Plus, I mean, watch the news, talk to lawyers, talk to your bankers, just keep your network close and have conversations. I am a director on our Brandon Chamber of Commerce. So I'm very fortunate to be able to hear what's coming or what's happening even in our city. So just be involved, be out there and have a voice. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Geneva. What skills do you think an effective leader needs these days?
Well, definitely Laurie covered a lot of really important ones. So I made a couple notes on things too, and I agree. I think that knowledge is power. So we definitely, just in leadership, but generally as professionals, the more information we can have on a regular basis, it never ends. I think having great communication skills, but also being really approachable is really key in being a leader. People need to be comfortable to come to you with problems or challenges and be willing and open to working through those. I've learned in the last few years that it's really important as a leader to lead myself first. And I was told that by another leader who I consider a mentor. And I think that was a really big eye opener for me in terms of what I do and how I live my life every day and what skills I expect of myself. Then if I do that properly, I can then, move forward and lead others. And also I'm a big proponent of dropping ego at the door. I don't think that you arrive thinking you're the expert. I don't think you arrive thinking that you know everything about a topic. So to be a good leader, I think you're also open to always learning and growing, and building on who you are and what knowledge you have from others and what they bring to the table.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Geneva.
Mm-hmm.
And Joanne, what skills do you think an effective leader needs these days?
Well, it's been wonderfully covered by both of these ladies. So listening would have been my number one. Because again, in order to problem solve, which our jobs are always problem solving, if you don't listen and you can't actually hear and relate to the problem that's being brought forth to you, you're solving your own problem. You're not really working on your agent's problems. So, and knowledge is power. And I think, especially for females in leadership, you need to know at least twice as much as your counterparts to be taken seriously. You really have to be on your toes. You have to prove that you do have that base of knowledge, intelligence, and ability to lead. So your example, as Geneva was saying, is really, really important in your brokerage, and check your ego at the door, because some of the best ideas that I've incorporated into our company have been from our agents, and the willingness to listen and to work it through with them, and I think is a real asset when you're leading.
Great. Well, thanks, Joanne. And I'm just going to throw in my 2 bits too about, what I think an effective leadership, what skills an effective leader needs these days is really, as we're talking about listening, but be empathetic. I'm a morning person, so I'm 121 miles an hour in the morning, and I always have to stop and slow down. It's like stop and smell the roses. When you're talking to someone, asking them, good morning, how was your weekend, and just getting a feel for, how they're feeling, so you can adapt your communication style and be a little bit more empathetic than just getting into the project. So that's my tip. And so I think that, people that are empathetic and realize realize that things go on in everyone's lives every day. And just by listening and just understanding, what type of day that person is having, then you can, again, customize your message and your, your verbal cues in order to make sure that they're feeling cared for and supported.
Absolutely.
So I know many of you have been in leadership roles for many years. How is leadership different now than it has been in the past? And maybe Joanne, since you've been in a leadership role the longest, maybe we will start with you.
Well, I mean, there's a big difference in when I started in my leadership role. I had to, again, checking your ego at the door and being very tolerant until you work your way through to the front of the lineup. As women, we talk about find your voice and use your voice. You have to then you had to have a lot of patience, and then when you got that moment to stand up and speak and talk about the things that you believed in and your value system and your approach to leadership and running a brokerage, then you better be ready. You better be prepared to do that. And of course, the best thing is your success. Your success will speak for itself. I found that once I led and started experiencing the successes within our brokerage, then I had other men in the industry going, what are you doing there, Joanne? Can you talk about that? And I've always been willing to share in the industry, always. I think the stronger each of us gets, the stronger the whole company will become. So engaging then, your communication skills are so important. And but engaging with other brokers, being willing to bring your ideas to the table and share those, I found that doors really started opening for me the more that I shared.
Great. Thanks, Joanne. Laurie, what about you? How do you think that leadership has changed, now versus the past?
Yeah, I feel that leadership used to be more of a dictatorship more than it was listening and taking into account people's opinions. And I mean, we always appreciate enthusiastic people, but I'm not too sure if people, leadership has changed that way a lot. I think leaders are looking more for input and an understanding and looking more towards a culture, right? And I feel, we were always told, do not show the cracks in your armor. Why not? We're human. You need to show that you're vulnerable, right? And that if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day. I mean, you have to keep it in check, obviously, but I think it's good to be, there needs to be humanity involved in leadership, and that's very important. And I feel that leadership used to be viewed more as, at the top, but now I feel that successful leaders are pushing their team up from, right? We're not first in line. We have big decisions to make. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the buck stops here. But we need to take everybody into account when we're making these decisions.
Great. Well, thanks, Laurie. Geneva, do you have something to add about how it's changed? You've been in a leadership role for some time too.
Yeah, and even thinking back to, jobs and things that I did previous to this and how the leadership teams worked. And I agree 100%. It used to be very much a hierarchy with the power positions at the top, and it was very speak down and expectations pushed through. And I agree 100%. It's been totally inverted. And now the job of those top leaders is to stand underneath and really elevate up the team and be there to support and look for opportunities to help grow people and allow them to find their own skill sets and strengths and really develop within that. It's gone from the leaders having all of the answers all of the time. And like you said, Laurie, the cracks in the armor were, hide those, to it being very collaborative and saying, hey, here's something that's going on. Let's roundtable this and see what everybody is thinking about and how can we problem solve it together and have input from everyone. So it's much more an approachable style now. I think people feel more comfortable to be willing to say, hey, what about this? maybe try that, and less concern about the right or wrong and more about just that safe place to idea share and maybe come up with new ideas. I think the top was probably really lonely back a long time ago when the hierarchy was very pyramid shaped, and I think now it's very fulfilling. I can go home at the end of the day and feel like I've been supported and I've grown and I've helped and supported other people, and I think that that's a very fulfilling piece for a leadership role now that I'm not sure was there before, or if it was, definitely wouldn't have filled my bucket the same way it does now.
Well,
No,
we're here talking about, leadership and how leadership has changed, but think of how it's changed from the people reporting to you. Now, as one of those team members, I feel like, oh my gosh, my boss, wants to know what I think about this. And, it's, as you say, Geneva, it's not only fulfilling for the leaders, but it's fulfilling for the rest of the team. Because now they have a voice and they get a chance to, talk about, what they think and generate ideas for the company. So I think that's amazing. So Geneva, let's just stick with you. What has been your biggest challenge as a leader and how have you overcome it?
I think probably, really, honestly, probably the biggest challenge I had when I started was my age. The female piece for sure did play a role, but I don't want to hang my hat on that. I think being a young female leader probably was the biggest thing that I had to tackle. But I also, decided really early on that the things that I decided were going to be problems would be problems. And I just sort of chose to say, what do I need to do to elevate my game? And that was, to Joanne's point, pay a lot of respect for the people that had been there before and had a lot of knowledge and had respect from within the industry. And so I shared a lot of respect for leaders that were already there. I picked their brain. I asked questions. I showed up with knowledge and intelligence. Definitely always respectful. So I think, just being young and I guess female in that world, for me, it was about just really earning those stripes and working constantly to prove that I could be there and deserve to be there the same as everybody else, no matter what. So I think that those could have been roadblocks in the beginning if I decided they were going to be roadblocks. Instead, I spun them into the opportunities that have allowed me to become now in the company and within our industry.
Great. And Joanne, what has been one of your biggest challenges?
Well, I again covered very, very well it is winning respect. It is winning respect in your workplace, and female or male. I think, these days that it's leveling out that playing field, but winning respect initially was the biggest challenge. And again, you really had to know your business and choose your moments to speak on the topics that you felt really confident about, and the ones that you have earned the respect. Whether someone gives it to you or not, that's their choice. But when you have that confidence to know, I've done this, look where the company has gone. And it in the beginning, it was a different role. I actually found that my ability to communicate, my previous career I had been a psychiatric nurse, so my communication skills and my ability to listen and discern were very strong. And I believe that nurturing relationship really helped my career, because men were very uncomfortable back then expressing feelings of any kind. That was supposed to be a weakness. So the fact that now you're in a setting with someone who felt very confident expressing how I felt about everything that was going on in the business. So I think it really helped get over that hurdle, and it really won me a lot of respect. But again, when you respect those around you, you will get that in return. So yeah, I would say that was the biggest hurdle.
Great. Thanks, Joanne. Laurie, what has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
Well, these gals covered a lot of good stuff here. Well, I think my biggest challenge was definitely being shoulder to shoulder as a sales associate with my team members, and then moving into a leadership role. I was eager and I was ready for it, but I also had to make sure they were ready for it. So it was, I had to be very cautious. about decision making, right? I had to figure it out. I mean, I've been part of this company for a long time, since 1996. So you think you would know everything about it and the dynamics about it, but you sure do not when you're on this side of the desk. There's a lot to learn. You had to accept the fact that you're going to make mistakes, but you have to own those mistakes. That was one thing, because you don't want to make any when you're moving into a leadership role, right? And that was part of the don't show the cracks in your armor, right? Everything's perfect, everything's good. But that's where this vulnerability part had to come in. And I think one of the challenges was making executive decisions, which I want to say I have a very supportive team and an awesome partnership. So decisions are takes everybody into consideration when it comes to major decisions. And I know that we have to make the final decision at the end. And sometimes it feels like a game of chess. You just aren't sure if the piece you put down is going to work out exactly the way you planned. So there's a lot of moving parts. And I think that was definitely one of the biggest challenges was to move from a sales associate into a leadership role and earn everybody's respect. And I think we continually do that. You are continually working on that.
Great. Thanks, Laurie. And I'm just going to add to the conversation too. So my biggest challenge in my career has been similar to Geneva's. You know, age was a challenge for me. So I was a director of marketing in my late 20s. And I remember thinking then, oh, I can't wait until I'm in my 30s. And now I still can't wait till I'm in my 30s and go backwards. But you know, one of the ways I overcame it is I thought to myself, you know what, I'm just going to do a kick-ass job. I'm going to raise the bar in everything I do. You know, so if people are just, you know, if you're presenting something and people are just looking at their notes, nope, I'm doing a presentation, right? I'm just going to like shine as best as I can and hope that everyone will see that, you know, I'm smart and that I have experience and that, you know, I have the qualification skills that are required for the position I'm in. So that's kind of what I've done. So Joanne, why don't you just tell us, kind of describe what your leadership style is, if you're to describe it.
Well, I believe my style is warm and open and engaging. You know, again, from my past career as a psychiatric nurse, I know that most people are filled with fear. Like you're always afraid to speak up. You're afraid that you're going to make a mistake. And I think that's a hurdle for so many people even today. I don't think that has changed at all. I think fear is our biggest obstacle. So I was always very sensitive to that and encouraged people to speak up and as they're speaking up, if they were tripping up along the way, to lift them up and support them and help them find their strength, help them find what they're good at. I mean, you know, I did so much one-on-one in the beginning of my career, helping people find their why, because that is something everyone struggles with. Why do I want to do this? Why am I going to make the sacrifices, especially as a real estate agent? Like, this is a tough job. So helping them find their why, to stay connected to, and usually it's your family, it's a loved one, it's something you want to accomplish for yourself, and helping them stay connected to that why, so that you can get through the tough days and enjoy the days that you do have in the sunshine. But I genuinely care about people. I come. You know, I am the daughter of a preacher. I have been in service since I can remember. I was always raised that you are here to serve other people and help them get where they want to get. And, you know, it's a cliche that if you help someone else accomplish what they want, you're going to get what you want, but it's the truth. I mean, the more we help other people, the more success you bring to those around you. And I mean, I just get off on that. I mean, they're truly, when I see my agent coming into their own and getting that Centurion and buying the car they dreamt of or taking their children on a vacation, I am just as excited about the things that I do for myself as I am for, watching my agents get there. I love it. I mean, it's an addictive thing to watch people find their happy place and accomplish what they want in life. And if I can be there to lift anybody into that, that is my honor, my pleasure, and it is why I do this job.
Well, thank you. Geneva, what about you? How would you describe your leadership style?
I definitely, align with a lot of what Joanna said. Obviously, we keep saying that around and around, so it's always nice to hear other people articulate things. But I definitely have a servant style of leadership. Really for me, it's about creating this culture of trust and rapport and kindness, being really genuine. So I believe in what you see is what you get. I truly, truly love our realtors, and they know that. I spend a lot of time nurturing that and making sure that they're aware of that. We love, to create situations of diverse thinking and collaboration. I'm also really straightforward, no nonsense. I have zero time for drama. If somebody wants to know an opinion, I will tell them it, and they'll get the hard truth pretty quickly, but in a kind way that they can also work through it, and we can look for opportunities in there. And I think that that style of just really elevating and lifting each other is such a big piece of that. So yeah, I think that it's about showing up every day the way I would expect somebody else to show up for me, and that needs to be a 10 out of 10, and sometimes it might be an 8. But again, we've created a culture within within our company and within the people that we surrounded with. But that's okay if you can't be that every day. And how do we help each other get back to that?
Great, thanks, Geneva. Laurie, what about you?
I would say I lead by example. It does make a difference when you still are involved as far as the selling side, selling is concerned. I am in touch, and if in touch with what's going on out there, if you want to call it in the trenches, doing the work. But I do still love that side of the business quite a bit, and I do have good support with Bill Nichols, so I am able to do that for now. But I think it's very important to be in tune and know what people are dealing with as far as what's going on in a client's world right now, especially when we're dealing with so many changes and with increased interest rates. So you're sitting across from the client and hearing what they're feeling, and you're seeing what the agents are having to deal with, right? Firsthand. Okay. So I like to lead by example. If I'm going to tell people that they need to have all their paperwork handed in and it needs to be done a certain way, well, I better be doing it too. Right? Or whatever, reaching out and making sure that everybody's staying in touch. And how I can stay in touch with our agents, even if it's our weekly meeting, a phone call. I had a couple of agents sit down in the chair across from me today, and we're having good conversations. They will carry that out into their work too, right? They'll be talking to their clients, because our agents are our clients, right? And we need to service them. I also feel that I'm a bit of a Democrat, because I like to include people. I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear your suggestions. I want to gather all of this information and do something with it if it makes sense for a company to do it. So that would be my style for sure.
Laurie, and, just staying with you for just a moment, we talked a little bit about how leadership might have evolved over time. How has your leadership style evolved? You just described yourself. How were you before, and how has it evolved over time?
Well, I've definitely gained a thicker skin. And I know that I can't please everybody. Right. You're going to have times where you have to accept that, and you have to accept that you're going to make mistakes, but you need to own those mistakes and learn from them. Okay. Also, I think it's evolved very positively though. I've really enjoyed it. I get excited every day about coming to the office and seeing what challenges we can deal with or how we can advance. But most definitely, I think I would have to say that I've really had to adapt to technology. Like, that is one area that definitely leaders have had to evolve, especially during 19, we had to definitely do that. So I would have to say that everything's changed so quickly and we had to adapt so quickly. And I discovered a lot about myself during that time.
Great.
So I'm tougher than I think I am.
Geneva, how has your leadership style changed over time?
Well, I also had a little note here that said I've developed a thicker skin, because I know 20 odd years ago when I started, I would definitely let things get to me. If there was a heated conversation or a time when I had to really stand up and challenge somebody or a circumstance, I know that definitely played after the fact an emotional toll on me. I'm less connected to that emotion now, but in a good way. I don't carry it home with me. I've learned to let things be in the moment and then move through and on very quickly. I have also, I think, learned to not take myself too seriously. Joanne's point earlier, I think when you're younger and entering, 20 odd years ago, when we were entering leadership roles, we did have an expectation to show up a certain way and, be very proper and specific. And now we've kind of allowed to let some of our idiosyncrasies, our emotional sides, the cracks in the armor become who we are. And so it allows us to be real and just show up that way. So show up myself and embrace that. Which is some of the things that I think my agents and the people that I work with love the most about me, is that I do have that emotional side and a lot of compassion and empathy. So, I think that those are some of the key takeaways when I look back to myself as 20 years ago till now. Definitely some amazing lessons and some really fantastic tweaks to who I am and how I work through the day and problem solve and all of those things.
Great. Thanks, Geneva.
Mm-hmm.
So Joanne, let's go back to the 90s and how has your leadership style changed?
Well, I have become less worried about what is everybody thinking about me. I mean, that's a big hurdle in life that we think we get over, and actually I think most of us take it to our deathbed. But you want to be accepted. Every human being wants to be accepted. So again, as both Geneva and Laurie expressed, you're not going to be everybody's favorite person. But it doesn't matter. I want to treat everyone equally. I want to, support them equally. And I really did see myself changing over the years of, don't be so concerned about the end result. Be concerned, are you doing the right thing? Is your heart in the right place? So much in the beginning, I'm telling you, women were like, oh, you better not cry. You better not be emotional. And it's like, well, gee, okay. And again, I'm over that, because, what happened over my career, which has spanned 3 decades now, I kept a box of tissues. My assistant always knew to keep me in Kleenex, because once you came in to talk to me about something that you were challenged with and the door closed, the tears started. And it was equal opportunity. I assure you, just as many men have cried in my office as women. So I really came to, again, know what's at the root of everything for all of us is the insecurity, and that we all need support, and that no matter how successful you are, you're going to hit a bump in the road where you're going to need support from your leadership. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to be that person. And with time came confidence, and I worried a lot less about what people thought of me. And hey, don't get me wrong, my feelings can be hurt just as easily as anyone else's, but quickly I adjust myself to go, did you do the right thing, Joanne? If you did the right thing, let it go. Let it go. It will be what it's supposed to be. And I worry less about things. Like in the beginning, you're just like, I want everything to be so perfect, or I can't fail, da, da, da. And the truth is, when you're doing the right thing, when you are leading with the right value system, it's going to work out for you. It's not that it's going to be easy. Life is a struggle. And it makes us stronger. All the struggles make us stronger. So I have learned to just keep pushing through, but always check myself. Never look for revenge to get anybody back. Don't look for that in your life. Just, how do I still do the right thing no matter what the circumstance is? And I have found that is the best yardstick for me to stand by.
Well, Joanne, just because we were talking about this before we started to stream this podcast live, but, on behalf of all of us here on the panel, we'd like to thank you for being our trailblazer. You are the one that shows us that we can be ourselves, and we can still be, strong and confident and smart, and just really to celebrate our uniqueness, right? And so thank you so much again.
Well, thank you for that acknowledgement. It does mean a lot, Chiyoko. It really does. Thank you so much.
So just moving on, I'm just wondering, Joanne, we'll stick with you, is what pushes you outside your comfort zone? Like if there's one thing that really pushes you as a leader outside your comfort zone, what would that be?
I'm very fortunate. Like my comfort zone is really big. Again, back to psychology, I had a dad who from the time I was very little told me I could do anything I ever wanted to do in the world, and I actually believed it. And I started speaking in public from a very young age because my dad was a preacher, and so I didn't know you couldn't do this. I always had a comfort level of speaking in front of people. I mean, I'm really, really fortunate for that. So, and I always felt that speak the truth is so important. I mean, Geneva, you expressed that so well. I mean, I don't want drama. And again, one of the best things in leadership, for another female is stop the drama, let go of the victim position. You are strong. Suck it up, buttercup. Find out what you've got to do about it so that you can move through it, and telling the truth, but telling it in a kind way. I praise in public, criticize in private has always been a policy I've stood by, and never criticize someone to hurt them. That's such a wrong motivation. So again, you have to be truthful in leadership, because if you're not being genuine, people will see right through that. And I appreciate, one of the freeing things about having your own business. It's a lot of hard work, that's for sure, but you are free to be yourself. And I love for this generation of young women that you actually know that now. You can be yourself, and that you're going to be followed by the people that can connect with your style, your culture in your office. You're not for everyone, and that's okay. But if you can bring a like-minded group of people together to support one another and help them accomplish what they wanted to in their lives, you are a lucky, fortunate person when you can do that.
Well, thanks, Joanne. That's some great words of wisdom. Laurie, what pushes you, if anything, what pushes you outside your comfort zone?
I would, that was great, Joanne. Those so many good words that you have, and I appreciate that a lot. I would have to say change can push me out of my comfort zone sometimes, especially if we have to act quickly. I would have to say, I don't want to dwell on this and nobody wants to hear about it, but when a pandemic hits, that's change, and it is fast, and trying to make the right decisions and not sure if how you're going to lead your group. Are we, this was all new, right? So change that happens fast, and that we have to act really fast, and decisions are crucial. That pushes me out of my comfort zone.
Right. Geneva, what pushes you outside your comfort zone?
Yeah, this was an interesting one. There's a lot of things that I would say maybe, I think a lot of things fall into my comfort zone over the years. I've definitely figured out how to maneuver through a lot of different things. So there's definitely things that fall into the bucket of just simply won't tolerate and won't go down the path for me. And so similar conversation, but definitely, those egos and arrogance, those kinds of things that come forward. I'm not interested in dancing the dance. I won't have the conversations, zero tolerance there. Same with, underhanded or aggressive kind of behavior when somebody thinks they can strong arm a conversation or pull a trump card or something like that. I again, happily just, turn and walk away. I don't need to have that battle. So I just choose to exit situations like that that I know that don't serve me, and the outcome won't be where it needs to be. I think an immediate trigger for sure for me is when somebody questions my integrity. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen very often, or if it does, it's from somebody that has misinformation. And so, those are things that, again, you deal with quickly, you address them, you don't give them any more time than they deserve. You either have somebody that's open and willing to listen and be thoughtful and reflect, and you have people that have already made up their mind. And if that's the case, that's okay. But those are definitely things that I would say, don't play a role in my life as a leader or as an individual. And, I've learned quickly to identify them and move away from them.
So Geneva, if you were to rewind the clock 15 or 20 years, and you were writing a letter to your younger self, what would you have loved to have heard at that time?
I think it definitely is, what we've touched on a lot here is that it's okay to show up with some emotion. It's okay to be your genuine self and not have all the answers in the moment. I definitely was quite fearful of not having answers, and that's still something I strive to arrive with or get to quickly or find for people. But so I think that that's part of it. I also definitely have spent a lot of time really reflecting on how problems, really are the opportunity. And so when I was younger and things would go wrong, I think, again, it would kind of rock me a little bit more, and I would let it spin and sort of fester. But now when things don't go the way I expect, I simply know that those are the best opportunities to grow and develop different skill sets and maneuver. And so when problems come up now, I'm actually, not that I'm excited about them, but I definitely approach them and work through them in a totally different headspace. So I think that my young self, if I had known that the problems were the opportunities and for growth and whatnot, I think that would have been a nice thing to have been told a little sooner, but also maybe something that you just need to learn through experience.
That's great. Thanks, Geneva. Laurie, what about you? If you were to rewind the clock, what would you write to your younger self?
I think because I'm like a rather eager person and want to get going and doing everything, and I need to learn everything, right? I think that slow down. We're always working for tomorrow, but you still need to enjoy today. Do not sweat the small stuff, because there's always small stuff. And you can expect that there's always a new challenge around the corner also. So you're never one and done. Never. There's always something, but look forward to those challenges. Take what you can learn from them, right? Don't let them like kind of smack you in the face. Just slow down, figure it out, and learn from them, right? And what's the rush? What's the hurry? And you can't please everyone. And there's some days that, some of your team members are not going to like you, but make sure they always respect you.
Great. Thanks, Laurie. And Joanne, what would you write to your younger self?
Well, my younger self, again, being a trailblazer, there was a lot of guilt as a single mother that I was working so hard. And with 4 children, trying to get all the homework done and make sure everybody was okay and cared for, I worried about that a lot. And yet it was like, if you don't go to work, they're not going to eat. So you don't have any choice. So there were things that you worried about. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing and as a mother, it's always first, am I doing the right thing for my children? Am I doing the right thing for the people who put their trust in me? It's a lot of responsibility, and I never took that lightly. It always meant so much to me. So never wanting to let anybody down. And I worried a lot about that. And as I had mentioned earlier, what I did come to understand is if you're putting the right reasons first and foremost, if your actual motive is to do the right thing for the people that you care for, you're going to come out okay. You're really going to come out at the end of that. And so in the early days, if I could have relaxed a bit more and enjoyed the process a bit more, but again, I didn't see that example around me. So I actually was torn. Am I doing the right thing, or should I be at home? But then if I go home, they can't have how do I put my children through university if I'm not making the kind of money that I need to be able to do that? So now when I look back, it is a challenge to have to do all things and be all things to all people, but it is also an honor. And I would have told myself to just relax. It's going to be okay. If your motives are good and you're there to help other people, it's going to work out for you. Whether you're a salesperson or whether you're a leader, or no matter what you're doing in your life, just stay strong, stay upright, keep moving forward. I mean, that is something that on the challenging days, you've got to keep going. I mean, as you were mentioning about COVID, those days, don't think anybody in leadership sat there and went, we'll be fine, we'll be fine. It'd be like, how are we all getting through this? But you are the leader, so you're expected to lead through it. Okay, we're going to get through this. And that's the thing that I would tell myself. It's okay, you're going to get through this. And it's a good life.
Thanks, Joanne. One of the reasons we put together this amazing panel is really in celebration of International Women's Day that took place, of course, at the early part of March this month. And so I wanted to ask you, Joanne, starting with you, is what qualities do you think women bring to leadership roles in the real estate industry?
We definitely bring compassion and emotion, and that strength of communication. I really do believe that. But there is something that I would like to add to the International Women's theme, and something that I want to acknowledge is, the most support I got through my breakthrough years was from men. I had great support, and even within our Century 21 company, there were many that supported me and encouraged me that I was on the right path and that I was really doing well, and I should be proud of myself. And so equality, when I look at celebrating a Women's Day, yes, I want to celebrate the women that supported me along the path, but the truth in my time was there weren't any women that I could look to support me. So I had a few very amazing, respectful men that really, they wanted to see me succeed. And I am grateful for that. And I do, when I encompass that, yes, we all need to hold one another. True equality is both of the sexes supporting one another so that all of us can rise to the top and accomplish whatever we want to accomplish. So for me, I just want to acknowledge that.
Well, thank you, Joanne. Geneva, what about you? What do you think, we're all in the real estate industry, and what do you think some of the qualities are, and what makes, women, what qualities do you think women bring to leadership roles?
Yeah, well, I just want to add to what Joanne said, because I was thinking about this last night too. And I actually had said that to a friend, that some of the best mentors and coaches and people that I've learned the most from were men in the industry or in other professions that could display the qualities that I, really wanted to encompass to my life. So I also think that it's the equal balance of both. But I think one of the pieces that women have been able to introduce into the workplace, and it has been embraced by everybody, I think, is that emotional intelligence piece a little bit, where it is okay to show up with, some compassion and empathy, and to be a bit more emotional in a circumstance that deserves some emotion. And I do think that that is rippling through leadership, and has for a number of years since it's been proposed and put forward. And like I said, both male and female, I see great leaders and leadership doing this really, really well now. And I also think that women have a really unique way of listening and then communicating and putting that, empathetic piece, which again speaks back to that emotional intelligence piece. But I think that that has been a really great attribute, is to really listen to what people have to say, to understand what's behind that and what they're dealing with, and then have that empathetic and compassionate approach to responding to them. But it is all encompassing from, like Joanne said, both sides for sure.
Great, thanks, Geneva. Laurie, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, wow, I echo everything that these two gals have said. So I guess, well, I'll just add, because definitely men have had a huge impact on my success and supported me, starting with my dad, right to Bill Nichols here, our sales manager. So, and he comes from a management position, years of managing. So he brought a very valuable piece and has been an awesome support for me. But definitely, I think women leaders are bringing, we are bringing a choice now. Not everybody gravitates to a male or to a female, but now people have a choice. Maybe they want to have a woman as a leader, right? I think that's a key, one of the biggest things. Plus, I think like we like to nurture. We like to, that's just part of our makeup, right? And nurturing is a huge part of this business. And it kind of like goes back to what Joanne was saying, that I want to help people. I want to see them succeed, right? So these, our team members are very important to us, and we want them to have the right tools and nurture them so they can be successful.
Great.
And along in the same idea as far as the gender is concerned, as long as we all have the same principles and we stick by our core values, that's the most important part.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Kyoko,
Laurie.
can I
Yeah.
add one more thing?
Yeah.
I want to say this. It just
Absolutely.
came to me as we were chatting here and as I was listening. About 15 years ago, I had another broker. I think he had recruited somebody that I was working on, or I can't remember exactly what the circumstance was, but nice enough gentleman, still friends with him now. But he made a comment and he said, Geneva, what one of your problems maybe is that you're not cutthroat enough. You're too nice. And I remember, young still, going home and really thinking about that and thinking like, am I going to make it in this business? Do I have what it takes? And I remember spending a lot of time thinking about it and rolling it around. And what I kind of came to this really cool conclusion was that I was going to show up how I was going to show up every day and be myself. And if that meant that I was going to be too nice and I couldn't dance in all of the same circles that maybe people thought I should, that was okay. But it was quite an interesting mind shift that I went through, because I did sort of get called out on my style at that time, and being able to work through that and decide, no, this is good and I don't want to change it, because at least I can go to sleep every night and feel good about what I did during the day. Like Joanne said, if I make a decision and I did it with the right intentions, be good. But it definitely in that moment challenged me to think, holy man, do I need to change what I'm doing in order to succeed in this world? And I'm really glad that I didn't 15 years later, but it was a really interesting moment in my career for sure.
Well, thanks for adding that, Geneva.
Yeah.
And, we've talked a lot throughout this podcast about, what leadership looks like today and, how it's evolved over the past. So let's talk a little bit about what we think leadership looks like in the future, and what qualities or skills do you think a leader needs to operate efficiently and be successful in the future? Geneva, why don't we start with you?
Well, I mean, so much of it's already been said. Laurie talked about being able to embrace change and look for, whether it's technology or different circumstances that come, just being really open to adopting and adapting to new ways of doing things and new things that get positioned in front of us. If we just try to do the same thing over and over, obviously we're going to get left behind. Absolutely always learning and open to that collaboration and learning from each other, idea sharing and everything like that. I absolutely think we need to continue to embrace that, emotional intelligence side, the EQ component. And I think that leaders that are trying to fake compassion and empathy to fit into this sort of change in leadership styles are going to start to get called out. You can't fake it. You either care or you don't. And we are seeing some leaders, or I am anyways, seeing some leaders flounder in this space because they actually don't care, but they're trying to, and it is very obvious. So I think for the success of that, you have to really go back to your why, make sure that what you're doing fills that, as Joanne pointed out earlier. And I think that those will be what we see the future leadership look like.
Great. Thanks, Geneva. Laurie, what about you? What do you think the skills or qualities that leaders need to be successful in the future?
I think you need to be dedicated to, you still always have to be learning. You have to accept that. We've never arrived where we know everything, right? So you have to be dedicated to learning. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to stand by your core values and practice them. Okay. I also think, obviously, you need to become a tech teenager of some sort, or at least have the support, right? That's a huge part. The emotional intelligence, you need to be able to communicate very well with your people and know exactly how each person, what makes them tick, right? And always be there for them, always have your door open, be available. That's the most important thing. Just make sure you're there for them and be looking ahead. Make sure you're always prepared for trends or what could be changing, right? You're leading. So you need to be on top of things and be present and available.
Great. Thanks, Laurie. And let's end with you, Joanne. What do you think some of the skills and qualities that leaders need to be successful in the future?
Well, I think as a leader, you have to keep your focus on building a culture of trust. Nobody wants to follow someone that they don't trust. And when you have that environment, trust encompasses, is my leader up to date on technology? Are they aware of the new trends in real estate? Are they aware of the direction real estate is going in? Are they looking out for me while I'm busy working with my clients, doing what I have to do? Have they got my back? So that I will look like the most informed realtor when I'm out there on the job. I will look intelligent. I will have the up-to-date information. I mean, when Trevor and I are doing Zoom meetings now, every week, it's like, what's going on in the industry? What is happening right now? How do we equip our agents right now today to do the best possible job they can do? So that's always foremost and needs to stay foremost in a leader's. I mean, you are responsible. You are responsible to be delivering the best information that you possibly can and help your agents raise their skill set so that they're equipped when they're out there doing battle day in and day out. I think that's what's really important. And of course, isn't it interesting that which we were criticized for, emotional, now is called emotional intelligence, and it's now trending. And boy, we had a breakthrough during COVID because everybody's walls came down. Everybody lost their fake wall of strength. We all know the underbelly of everybody now. So now it is, keep that going, keep that communication, and know that people, they need one another. We need one another. We are not islands. We need the support of one another, and we need to be in an environment that we trust in. So I think that is like really, really important going forward. Always has been and will continue to be, I think, paramount.
Well, thank you so much, Joanne. And thank you very much, ladies. Thank you for your wisdom, your experience, your loyalty to the brand, sharing, all the great ideas and thoughts that you have on today's panel. I really, really appreciate it. How can people get a hold of you? If someone wants to get a hold of you, Geneva, how can they get a hold of you?
Just Google my name everywhere.
Google us. We're available.
Google us. That's a good answer. Yep. That'll be it. Yep.
Yeah. And Chioka, I just want to add, I think this is one of the proudest events I've participated in. These two young, strong leaders are amazing. Like I love listening to them talk. And for me, this is like this proud moment. This is a very proud moment. I have to say, thank you, ladies. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. I feel the same. To be able to be on this panel with Geneva and Joanne has been awesome. Thank you very much for including me.
Well, thank you.
100%. Yeah, agreed.
Yes. And, all of you ladies make me proud each and every day. So again, thank you so much for your participation. For those people that want to get a hold of these lovely ladies, you can just Google them.
Yes.
So thanks again. So you're either listening to this podcast live or you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or you happen to go to the century21franchise.ca website and you're watching the recordings there. Century 21 is one of the world's largest residential real estate companies in the world with presence in 86 countries. And here in Canada, we are 11,000 plus strong, and we're looking to align ourselves with like-minded individuals. So if you are looking for a growth opportunity, please feel free to reach out to myself or my colleague, Gary Zalepa. Our contact information can be found on the century21franchise.ca website, or you can connect with me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you again, ladies.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank
So good to
you.
see you.
You too.